Welcome, Patrick. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking the time to do the interview. Patrick is the GM of the Trico Communities and the president of Trico Group, which is an umbrella over Trico Homes and a few other subsidiaries. Can you tell us a little bit about what Trico Group is and Trico Homes?
Yeah, for sure. So Trico is a family-run business, and with the Chiu family, with Wayne Chiu, Eleanor Chiu, and myself, we oversee the home building side, the community side for rental, commercial, and senior living facilities that we're building right now as well, and then also the charitable foundation, so the Trico Charitable Foundation.
How did your father, Wayne, end up starting the company?
So he was a born-bred entrepreneur, and his background actually, education-wise, was engineering. And after he finished school, he was kind of figuring out, okay, what can I do in the realms of the business world? So he got into real estate. He actually ended up owning a ice cream shop. I don't know if you read that or not, but it was really, really cool. So he went through all these different kind of small businesses and then realized that maybe real estate and home building is the way to go. So and it wasn't until 1992 that he actually decided to open up his own home builder company.
What made him decide real estate and home building was the way to go?
It was profitable, and it was just the right move because the way that he thinks is so visionary. He's a visionary leader that he's able to really map out the strategy for, decades to come. So
amazing. And when did you decide you wanted to be part of the family business?
I think I've always wanted to be part of the family business. I mean, growing up was interesting because, he was grinding it out really, really hard to try to get Trico Homes becoming, the company that it is today. And on the weekends, I would go, swimming lessons in the morning, but then in the afternoon, we're driving around to the different show homes around Calgary. And, just getting that kind of exposure right away was like, wow, like this is the hard work that goes into it. And, real estate being such a common topic in the household was really to be like, yeah, I'm really interested into being part of it. And it's not just being the eldest son as well. There's that sense of like, responsibility and accountability that goes with that. So for me to join on, I guess, to make it a family business then is great. And it's really rewarding. I mean, for me, it challenges me, and it's an exciting job that, that we're touching so many different lives. I mean, homes are the biggest single investment for anybody. So to have that positive impact for them is great. And I like to be able to touch that. So
that's awesome. How old were you when you started getting involved with the company?
If we
actually doing some work and stuff.
Yeah, like if going back to, I guess, 13, 14 years old, I mean, I would never have really summers off. It would be, hey, you're done school for 4 months or for 2 months. You got to get some work experience. So I would be in the Trico office actually doing filing and even doing reception. So I did that for several years. And up until the end of high school is when I decided, like, okay, what kind of other experiences that we can do as well. So I did start working at different I worked at a law firm as a court runner. I've worked at Husky Energy. I worked at Suncor. I've worked at HSBC. So I did get that whole kind of spectrum of what kind of industries are in Calgary and what kind of exposure can I get. So I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to have those opportunities. So
you decided to go to school in Halifax first, correct?
Yeah, I went to Dalhousie.
And what did you take there? And how old were you? Did you go right out of high school?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So I graduated when I was 17. moved out to Halifax, and my parents like to put it the best way. It is the furthest school away with a direct flight. so it was so I did my BCom there with a major in marketing and management, 4 years. And the greatest thing about that university was the program around it. So the commerce program provided a co-op. So a co-op internship that really was structured to be, hey, you have 4 years, but you actually complete 3 co-op terms within that time period. So you don't really have time off. So it was great because the exposure and the ability to help the students find a job was also really strong. But with with my previous work experience and trying to get into something else, I was able to also find my own networks as well.
That's awesome. So what did you learn from those co-op experiences? Working with the other companies like HSBC and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I worked at HSBC for 2 of the terms, and then Suncor for the 3rd term, and it was just the different aspects of a larger corporation, right? When I was looking at my experiences with Trico, when I was a reception, we had maybe 50, 80 employees, whereas HSBC, Suncor, you're looking at the tens of thousands, right? And what is different was that the culture was there. So Suncor, it was huge on giving back to the First Nations, and I love that aspect of it. HSBC was huge into small businesses and being in Canada. So I think it was great to kind of get that exposure for sure.
What did HSBC do in terms of culture for people connecting with each other and being on the same level and like events for employees and stuff like that?
Yeah, so when I was there, I was a personal banker, so a teller pretty much, and then getting to mutual funds as well. The processes they had in place already for onboarding for new employees was very, very strong. And that is something that, a lot of major corporations are like, yeah, if you start off here in this role, these are the roles that you could go in the future. And these are the steps that you really need to take. And it was just mapped up so well that, if you were to maintain there, you have to maintain a standard of living, a standard of culture as well. So you would be bringing the same values and guiding principles as well into that. So
very interesting. That's cool. And then you came back, and did you work when you got back to Calgary? Did you go straight to doing your was it your MBA next?
No. So when I graduated Dalhousie, I actually started a biotech firm.
Oh, okay.
So what kind of industries of Calgary I kind of had to offer, and I had the opportunity to join on a biotech firm. So I did investor relations and marketing communications. So taking something that I did learn from school and actually applying it right away. So working, it was a company called Resverologic. So they were research and development in a drug for cardiovascular disease. But they found that they were able to also target against Alzheimer's, diabetes type 2, and seeing all the different effects as well, and positive effects really in that. So they're in the clinical trials right now, from what I know. So it was good to see that Calgary was diversifying other than just finance, real estate, and oil and gas within the industries that most people work in here. So to get that exposure was huge for us, or for me really. And when I say us, I mean the family. So yeah.
How big was the biotech firm?
They had less than 30 employees. So, and I was working with people from down in the States, PR firms, to help kind of map out the correct story for how to really bring such a scientific study into like pretty much a layman's term, so the basic investor can understand it as well.
Right. That makes sense. And then after that job, is that when you decided to go to the UFC?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing for me was I wanted to create my own personal brand. I wanted to bring my own skill set, because I always knew that I wanted to be part of the family business. I always wanted to be part of Trico and the culture that they have and the work that they do around the community and just for people. So Wayne actually approached me, and this is really funny, was that he calls me and says, hey, I need to sit down and have a coffee with you. And I'm like, uh-oh, that means 2 things. Because, being my father and everything, I was like, okay, we got to talk about work. We got to talk about school, like my future plans. And then, so he sat me down and said, Patrick, I need you to come into Trico because we have a great project that we're actually going to work with the First Nations people. And I would love for you to help run that project and help oversee and assist so you can also learn, how Trico does things, the Trico way, and then also have a positive impact on the community. So we did a flood restoration project out in Morley for the Chiniki Nation, and we did about 160 homes in 15 months.
Wow.
Yeah, that's restoration, renovation. So it was a bit undertasking, but at the same time, he was like, so you should get your MBA because that's pretty much the new standard. So nowadays, you think that high school was great. Now everyone has a degree, an undergrad degree. Now, great. If you want to make it to the next level, you have to have a master's or some kind of equivalent to that. Mm-hmm. So at the same time I joined at Trico, I actually joined UFC's part-time evening program. So completed that in 2 years. And graduated in 2018 from the MBA. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Did you find that doing that 2-year program valuable? Did it have a big impact? Because I've talked to a few other people who've done MBAs or business degrees, and they come out and they become entrepreneurs and start running businesses, and like, school is not helpful.
Yeah, no, well, for me, doing a business degree first and then doing another business degree was a really more to learn. But the thing is, though, my approach to it was, the networking. Mm-hmm. With the MBA, you have all these different engineers, lawyers, dentists, these people that don't have that business acumen that they can build on it. But if I already have something to bring to the table with them, then a lot stronger conversation can come from that as well. And it was just to see exactly, who would be my peers in the future for the city of Calgary, really. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So you think it was worth it due to the networking side?
I believe so, for sure. And some of the courses were definitely enlightening and enriching. So I mean, there's always new frameworks that you could always learn about. So to actually keep myself accountable, to push myself to learn these things, then it allows it to be a little more positive, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What doubts have you had about taking over the family business?
So many. I mean, you never want to. You always want to make your parents proud. You always want to make sure that you're doing enough for the family. It is my capabilities, and it's also to show that I want to make sure that people understand that I'm working towards it. I don't want to be just given it. I don't want to be spoon-fed with it. I really want to show that I'm capable and I can keep myself accountable and become the leader that, that is required for that role in the family business. Mm-hmm.
How did your parents groom you into that direction? And did they have expectations around that? Or were they kind of do whatever you want? Or how did that look?
I think for me specifically, I told you about this before too. I'm actually adopted, and just that aspect alone is I knew that I was adopted when I was about 5 to 7 years old, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, wow, I have 2 sets of parents, but no sense of resentment or anything like that. But the fact that they were so open with me up front, and I have a younger sister and younger brother as well, 5 and 7 years apart, but they're my parents, of course, but they also were really, warming and welcoming, and they understand that I'm their bigger brother, and that's family is family, regardless if I'm adopted or not. Mm-hmm. And that sense of belonging for family was huge for me to really say, I want to provide more impact for the family. I want to become that custodian. I want to make sure that I'm accountable for myself and for the family. But with my parents, though, they're never pushy on anything. My sister is in pharmacy, my brother is in nutrition and dietitian. So we're very open, because the way that we see the family business is not just within home building per se with Trico Homes. If my siblings decide that they want to pursue these different careers in different industries, well, hey, we have a family that we can build it off of. So we have the Trico Group of companies that can easily incorporate different industries and help them succeed in their life as well.
So those doubts you have, what do they typically look like around taking over the mantle?
I think there's a lot of image to it too. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're, just walking around and people are like, oh yeah, he's here just because he's the son or whatever. But if it's more so like, yeah, he's in the role because one, he fits the role and he knows enough and he brings enough to the table, enough experience, enough knowledge to the table. So then he's able to provide, the right performance for that job.
Right.
The other ones, like, it's just self-doubt, right? It's just, if you don't have that self-awareness to say that, yeah, in times of doubting yourself, you can still find other outlets to help you get out of that. One that I found was, just friends in general. But for me, I actually found coaching is very interesting. So instead of like and this is something that you can tell people in the future too, it's like, you have your mentors and everything, you have your professors in school that can help you, navigate through, yeah, I've gone through this before, but professional coaching is very interesting. It's someone that you actually hire and you're like, that keeps you accountable and keeps you making sure that, hey, what are the other gaps that you have from doing the next role from you? And then see how you can roadmap that out.
I imagine the vast majority of business owners, whether they admit it or not, have a lot of self-doubt at times. So what advice do you have for them for overcoming that?
Yeah, I mean, when we're at the level, like, being a manager and being in that C-suite level, it's a lonely world, right? There's not many people that you can rely on to be like, okay, well, I can talk to my teams and be like, yeah, these are the decisions that we have to make, but the harder decisions come from way above level. And because you're so lonely, there's only just a few guys up top, there's not enough conversation, communication around it. So organizations like YPO that you can join on to, or different types of peer groups like SVP, for example, these type of organizations can help bridge that gap to be like, yeah, there's other people like you in the same situations that can share their experiences or share some insights for you to really help you, gauge the situation and help you overcome it, and get rid of all those self-doubts really and all the other doubts around it.
So when we talked before, you talked about going into the different parts of the company and learning how they operate, and I believe you're helping implement systems and stuff as well, right? What does that look like?
So after the flood restoration project, I really wanted to see how I can integrate myself into the office. So there was an opportunity to do Lean and Six Sigma. So to get some certifications and learning around processes is when I did process development. So I was working with a lot of the department leads and department heads to really map out, hey, what's our workflow? How can we adjust the waste? How can we adjust housing costs? And there are a lot of opportunities that can come out of that. So the efficiencies behind it and the effectiveness of working and making that team a little stronger was really, really, really great. And that was a really great way for me to integrate with it, basically touching every single department and learning from them, because I'm not going in there and saying, this is what you should do better. I just go, hey, you guys are doing this. Let's discuss as a team and collaborate and figure out, hey, is there a way better? I'm mostly just facilitating. However, I'm still learning from them hands-on. And that was really, really great to have that kind of opportunity. And then after that, getting the department manuals all done and working on that workflow and making sure, Trico is pretty lean as is, and we're a well-oiled machine, but there's always room for improvement. So that's what we kind of were looking for. After that, I went into business development. So then I was, doing more external relationships. So I was working with developers, working with different trades, and also just getting overall exposure on all levels. And I did that for about a year before, getting into the general manager role of looking into commercial, rental, and senior living. So this is a completely different real estate portfolio away from home building, which is our bread and butter. But it is an opportunity that we see in the future for us. And Wayne and the team has really driven that vision, and we're creating that team right now. So it's awesome. It's challenging.
How do you think Trico Homes was able to get to the size it was when obviously so many other competitors weren't. What do you attribute that to? Because you said you guys are doing close to 500 houses a year. Hey?
Yeah, and in both in new home sales for single family and multifamily for sure. I think it is really like one of the biggest things that actually set Trico apart was that Wayne saw a land strategy early on and was able to map out exactly, if I were to go here and here and here, I can be set for at least a good portion of a while and build up that market share. And I said, wow, how do you even see that though? But that's just experience and just level-headed. He was keeping humble and keeping modest to what he was doing. He was being empathetic and compassionate with his leadership. He was very upfront with the team and says, like, it's going to be rough for these few years, but hey, look at the trajectory we're in now. So being top 5 builders in Calgary is huge for us. But we're not really striving to be number one. We just want to be that builder of choice. And that builder of choice to be, you know, not just with home buyers, but with developers, trades, and suppliers as well. So just having all those relationships, just being that choice for people.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so the company started in 1992. When did it really start to scale up?
I think it was towards like the mid 2000s.
Okay.
And it wasn't until, you know, when the market was slowly crashing in 2009 was that 5 year until 2015 was when the other crash happened. That was the time to build up. And that was the time where we realized that our processes were good. Our efficiency was good. We knew exactly how to build a house. And by 2014, we were churning out like 600 homes, 700 homes. Like, it was crazy.
Wow.
It was nonstop go, go, go. But that's the economy driving it too.
Yeah.
But to maintain customer service, and we go by avid scores and avid surveys, we go by Homestar reviews. Like, we make sure that we provide the best. We try to provide the best customer service. And because when a home buyer is putting the most money ever into something like a home, it's the biggest investment. But the process of doing so, I mean, for a new home buyer, you know, not educated on how to buy a house, they don't really know what's going on. So they have to ask lots of questions, and there's so much, suspiciousness around, like, oh, what are they trying to do to me? Like, oh, they're telling me to not do this kind of color or do this kind of thing, but it's my house, I want to do it. Setting those limits and setting those boundaries is one of the ways that we've done it, and we educate our home buyers well too.
So that 2009 to 2014-ish period, big ramp up, economy's driving things. So now in this current economy, how do you think, in general terms, business owners should go about navigating that downturn? Like, what kind of things do you think people should be keeping in mind and doing to, I guess, survive to a degree or thrive in this kind of economy? Sorry, that's a big question.
No, for sure. That's why I didn't take a glass of water. It comes down to how do you want to approach it as a team? And it's the corporate culture around it. I mean, this is the perfect time that you can map out exactly all your processes, all the kinks that you can find, and having the right people. For us right now, human capital and employee retention is huge because we've created such a lean team, but we've kept them because we have such a strong culture. What are the values that drive the company? What are the values that drive the leader that is driving that ship, right? When we talk, Wayne and I always have conversations around what makes a good leader, right? And he always talks about humbleness, empathy, compassion, even motivation around learning. Those are the things that, really drive a good leader. And if it can happen from top down on that culture alone, it speaks beyond just the company itself. It goes beyond, just the city. So,
How do you suggest companies implement those values or figure out what their values are?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, there's a lot of self-awareness too, right? I mean, there's a lot of books out there you can read and on leadership and different corporate culture. But I mean, honestly, who you are as a person is really what's going to drive it. And who you are as a person is what will allow people to follow you. And if you're a natural born leader, then yeah, certain things will just come to you. But, making sure that, when we talk about, 7 habits of highly effective people, Stephen Covey, you can say seek to understand to be understood, and just having those different habits to be leaders need to have those aspects of being empathetic and compassionate. Because if they can't understand the other people's shoes, how can they understand you in your shoes? So once you have that kind of communication platform, then I think there's lots of ways that you could succeed.
Yeah. What do you do to cope with stress and stay motivated?
Ooh. Not drinking. No. No, it's good to have stress though, because there's good and bad stress, right?
Right.
If the good stress comes when you find passion in your work and you find work exciting. If you find it challenging, then you're I got to keep innovating. I got to keep pushing the team, myself, and learning all these different things that are happening around us. And how do we adapt? If we could be agile and adapt to the market changes, especially for rentals, for example, what are we going to do to differentiate ourselves and have that competitive advantage then? So, those that's a good stress. The balance around it for me is specifically I work out. I like to go, I have a bowling league that I'm in. I play every Tuesday. It's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
But, getting into different disciplines like martial arts or boxing, those kind of things can keep you accountable to really push yourself, because that's your mental capacity as well. If you could build up the mental capacity, then, the stress kind of alleviates itself, because then you're able to just handle more. But if you're one of those people that really want to drive yourself even further, then put yourself into more awkward situations and to turn bad stress into good stress. Take those weaknesses and find what can be advantageous around that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Have you listened to Jocko Willnick's podcast or read his book at all?
I haven't read his book. It's on my list though.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. He always talks about that. He's if you're in a really bad situation, there's always a good side to it.
Oh, totally.
Make you harder.
That's silver lining, right?
Yeah. Or you can learn something from it. So I think, putting yourself in some selectively stressful situations could definitely be beneficial for growth.
Oh, for sure.
What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are scaling up and running a large company? Because I think out of the different interviews we've done so far, you probably have the most employees under you.
Yeah, we so Trico, we have about 150 employees. There's a saying that Wayne has. It's doing well and doing good, or doing well by doing good. And by doing so, it's meaning you can do well in business, but are you doing good for the community and the people around you? We identify ourselves really as a social enterprise. For sure, as a business, you always want to make sure that you're making a profit, but what is your social impact? How can you drive more, as we're building homes and building different developments for rentals and seniors, can you build an inclusive community around it? And that is something that a lot of businesses are shifting their focus to is, they're looking at ESG or environmental sustainable governance, different aspects of business, but it's always been there, right?
Yeah.
For us, we've identified that early on, and that's what we're advocates for. If we can focus on not just us as being a business as business is, if we can focus on the people that are buying our houses and impacting their lives positively, then great. Then that is something we want to we want to go for.
What motivated that direction, do you think?
I think
because there's are obviously a lot of big companies and small companies that are just focused entirely on profit. What motivated you guys to focus on inclusive communities and doing good?
I think it's just the family. The true family really goes by doing well, by doing good. So, giving back to the community is a huge thing that Wayne and Eleanor does. I mean, for example, they started the Charitable Foundation, Trico Charitable Foundation, TCF, in 2008, 2009, when they're trying to map out exactly what social entrepreneurship is. When you're talking about all these business owners and entrepreneurs, putting that social in front of that now it's almost like a buzzword. Everybody wants to be more social, but how are you being more social though? What is that impact that you're doing it? Like there's companies like B Corp, for example, that Trico is actually a B Corp. And those kind of certifications to show that, there are a lot of companies out there that are doing good. Are they doing well? Maybe, for sure. I know a lot of them are, but some of them may not be. But they have that social impact that they want to strive towards, which is great. So for the foundation itself, we're trying to make Calgary that hub of social entrepreneurship and really be the drivers around that conversation. We look at, and I work as one of the judges on the jury to look at different applications to say, like, we're looking for a grant of like $100,000, like the social enterprise, forum. We look at different communities. Like I think the one that won in 2019 was a lodge, a First Nation lodge in Vancouver, right off of East Hastings. Really, really rough area, but what they do is they were a lodge for lodging artists, so emerging artists or local artists around the area with that First Nation kind of background as well, and to help support them. So the boutique hotel also helps fund that. So that kind of vision, the impact at the community itself, preserving culture and preserving artists, living quarters. That was a great way to see that. And, for us to help, enhance and promote that even further is great.
You guys started your company a considerable time ago, and I from what I understand, I'm relatively new to Calgary, that the city always kind of has had a bit of an underlay of like an old boys club to a degree. Did you or your father ever experience challenges with racism or anything like that?
Oh, totally.
Barriers.
Oh, we still do to this day. I mean, when we walk into the room, they'll be like, "Who's this Asian guy?" Well, now they know who Wayne is, because guess what? He's created such a great corporation, and he's been the top 5 builder for the last how many years? But that took a lot of time and effort, getting into those rooms and just trying to get his face out there. So he was pushing really, really hard for Trico's branding in the very beginning, for sure. To be in the position that we're in right now, definitely there's a lot of racism around it. Nobody wants to talk to the Asian guy that just walks in and says, we want to do good for the community, we want to build for new people, and this is what we have. They wouldn't even look at him and be like, okay, there's so many other people like you. But consistently he just put his head down and pretty much just went for it. And, keeping true to his word, being empathetic, people see those qualities. And then they will reciprocate those things as well.
Yeah, that's great. Do you think there was a little bit of that motivated him?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, for him, he was like, I have a vision. This is exactly what I need to do. And this is how I'm going to do it. So
amazing. That's awesome. So back to doing the social good piece. I think there are quite a few businesses. They're usually really small that have are entirely focused on social good. Like that's their main focus, and then they end up not being profitable because they think that that's everything. Where do you think businesses should try and find that balance? Do you think they should try and be profitable first and then focus on the social good, or how do you think that should be navigated? Because I've seen businesses that focused on a lot of social good go under for that reason, right?
Yeah, but and I don't get I would love to see those companies too that come to the door and be like, there's lack of funding or lack of just operating costs, and like what when we look down in the nitty-gritty details, it's like, how are you able to sustain what you're gonna do? Really, if they can answer that question, then they can solve that profitability. Because if the profit is not on their top of mind, then does it need to be? But when we look at social entrepreneurship, we want a lot of these companies to do well too, right? Because they're doing so much good for the community and society. But how are they able to sustain themselves? Look at different business frameworks to say like, okay, is your pricing model too cheap or not affordable, or is too affordable? Is there like a certain equilibrium around your supply and demand to really push on exactly what's the perfect pricing model for whatever service or product that they have? For me to say to them, have lots of discussions with a lot of the different people and mentors and coaches out there, because they're able to provide you more insight. And nowadays it's so data driven. A lot of these insights is, you can pull all the big data you want, but how you actually utilize that insight to find out what is the why you do business, and then how you're going to do the business, and what's the outcome out of that as well.
Earlier you touched on the loneliness of being in that upper level management, and how organizations can, like YPO and stuff like that, can help. Do you have any other advice for entrepreneurs, business owners, C-level executives on dealing with that, especially if they aren't in something like YPO or EO or one of those organizations?
For me, you got to be bold and courageous to be able to put yourself out there. I mean, you're a leader, and you're already putting yourself out there into different peer groups. So why not just have a coffee with somebody that is of higher level? There is never a wrong approach to ever asking someone for a coffee. Most people will try to find, like, if you kind of map out and said, like, I'm in this situation, you don't have to go into full detail and like tell them, I'm going through this and business, and then I need a coffee to sit down with you to talk about it. No, be like, hey, I just want to understand how you do business. Let's sit down and chat about that. Because there's more to learn from a discussion than it is just to read a book from it too. Right? Every situation is so different. And you never know, from that coffee, that person might know somebody else that has experienced something to that, and that connection can be made. That doesn't necessarily need to be going through an organization like YPO.
So what are your goals with the Trico Group in the next 25 years?
For me, being the family member that's most active in the business now, is to really help build and maintain what has been done. But definitely, if I could like double the portfolio in 25 years, to get from what it was 25 years till today, then let's do it. But is to really empower the team that drives the ship as well, and being a strong enough leader for them to follow is the biggest thing for me. And I want to show them that what I'm learning and what I'm doing now will help achieve that. And how can we work on a strategy to work towards that future? So.
And do you have any goals personally outside of work in the business?
I gotta lose 20 pounds. I gained that freshman 15, but it was a freshman 30. So my goal is to kind of get myself into a better lifestyle. So.
My other guy that I work with, we had someone on the podcast, Robert Price. He just started a company called Bode Canada.
Okay.
They're an online real estate brokerage, and they're doing some insane things in that space.
I've seen their website. Yeah.
But anyways, he did a workout challenge with a friend of his, and they had to work out the most number of days in 30 days.
Wow.
And a minimum 30 minutes for it to count. And whoever lost bought the other person a steak dinner. And then so the other guy I work with, Riley, and we did it for 60 days.
Holy smokes.
I think we were both, I was like 47, he was like 48 or something like that. We both got that terrible sickness over New Year's, and we're out for like a week and a half.
Oh no.
But it made a huge difference, especially for him, because he didn't really use his gym membership at all before that, and then going for 2 months straight makes a huge difference.
Well, you're changing your lifestyle, right? You're getting yourself into a habit. And like the power of habit, like, for a lot of habits to kick in, it takes about 3 weeks, right, to really sink in. So having friends to keep you accountable for that is awesome. So
makes a big difference.
Huge difference. You go to the gym, but if you're not working towards something too, it's like, why are you just working out? Are you just trying to maintain your body? Sure, then that's your goal. But if you're just going to work out because you feel like you should go and work out, because you just didn't for a while, the outcome out of that workout session won't really show. and then you'll feel, less motivated to go back again.
Totally.
Right. So
I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu this year, and it's exhausting. It's like
rolling is fun. Rolling is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
After I gained weight, I was like, I can't really roll anymore. I roll down a hill, but I can't really roll with anybody anymore. Unless you just lay and pray.
Yeah.
So,
did you do it for a while?
I did it for like 6 months, just out in Halifax and then a little bit in Calgary. But yeah, like those workouts are rough.
Yeah, you should get back into it.
It would, honestly, like I actually getting back into boxing and kickboxing too.
Oh, that's a great workout
too. Getting that cardio in, but an enjoyable cardio.
Yeah.
I never really understood like running like A to B. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like I don't need to do that. But if there's like an activity like basketball, soccer, those kind of sports as well, like you're achieving. Like for me, I'm achieving something out of that kind of workout. So having that kind of different cardio aspect is good.
Yeah, I find running dreadfully boring. I get like 5 minutes and I'm like, I'm bored. I'm done.
But the thing is, though, for you to actually gain endurance out of running, you have to run for 20 minutes straight.
Yeah,
at least, and then that's what you gain after that 20 minutes. So
yeah, well, Riley did mostly running for the challenge. He'd go and run on the treadmill 30 minutes, and he was like, he's very competitive, and he would like. There's a couple days he went like, after going to the bar because he didn't want to miss the day. And he said the one time he was running on the treadmill and almost fell off.
Oh my God.
Like, Ryan, what are you doing?
He probably had a beer in his hand too. Well, he was like, I'm going to put down to 4. I'm going to just light jog and have a beer.
Yeah. Anyways, well, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, definitely. Thank you for inviting.
There's some amazing insights there, and I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this interview, and hopefully I'll see you again sometime soon in the future.
No, definitely. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers.
Our first sponsor is Syndication, which is a video production company that I started. We do video production and online marketing for businesses of all sizes, ranging from solopreneurs to Fortune 500 companies.
Our next sponsor is FLAGSHIP Business Brokers. FLAGSHIP Business Brokers provides entrepreneurs with support through the purchase, sale, or financing of a business. They have a proven track record of delivering fast, cost-efficient, and client-focused transactions.
Another sponsor of the Ambition Project is BUSINESSLINK. BUSINESSLINK is Alberta's entrepreneurial hub. They are a nonprofit organization that helps people navigate the steps towards starting their own businesses. Just because you're in business for yourself doesn't mean you're in business by yourself. BUSINESSLINK's team of in-house startup experts are there to support you all along the way.